Hello and welcome. I am Lian Bon and this is Rappler Talk. Welcome to the Leader I Want series, where we interview candidates for the senatorial elections in 2019 and we focus on issues and platforms and not personalities and gimmicks. For today, we have the former Solicitor General under the Aquino administration, someone who teaches constitutional law, formerly at the UP Diliman, Attorney Florin Hilbay. Good day po, sir.
Good day. Thanks for having me.
Welcome po. Sir, right away, please address those who are watching you. Ano po ba yung plataforma niyo? What are your platforms for the incoming elections?
Una-una, because I teach constitutional law, I'm very much interested in the budget. I think yung focus of every administration should be how to prioritize the budget to focus on certain sectors. Just like in a regular family, diba? Ang pinaka-importante is yung budget. And reflected dun sa budget yung priority. Babaguhin mo ba yung bahay? Bibili ka ba ng bahay? Edukasyon, hospitalisasyon, o pagkain?
So what would you prioritize,
it's the same metaphor. We know that the Philippines is economically challenged. Hindi tayo mayaman. Kaya dapat yung prioridad ng ating pamahalaan makita dun sa budget. Meaning social services, agriculture, industrialization. Babaan yung mga discretionary funds for certain public officials, ibilad yung problema ng pork barrel na nandyan pa rin, and talagang makita doon, masalamin doon yung medium, short, and long-term policies ng pamahalaan. And note that the budget is the most important law that is passed by Congress. Ako nga sa tingin ko, kahit walang ibang ipasang batas ang Kongreso, kung maayos yung budget, maayos ang pamahalaan.
Sir, you mentioned budget. One of the things that natutukan naming media is yung paglobo ng Intel Fund ng Duterte administration, and a chunk of that actually went to the Office of the Solicitor General under the Duterte admin. Being a Solicitor General, do you think that office needs that much Intel?
Well, during my time as Solicitor General, I didn't have any intelligence funds. We never requested for any intelligence funds. Ang tingin ko kasi yung problema dun sa intelligence funds, they're too discretionary.
Yes.
No? That means, hindi natin alam talaga, hindi alam ng mga mamamayan kung saan napupunta yung pera. And yung level of audit, hindi ganun ka-strict generally compared to all other types of items in the budget. And so sa akin, every time tumataas yung intelligence funds, dapat tumataas din yung kilay ng mga mamamayan.
In-scrutinize further habang ano?
I would prefer lower intelligence funding for agencies that, don't perform more traditional intelligence operations. So okay lang for military because military needs to perform intelligence activities. Okay lang din for Philippine National Police. For the President, I'd say dapat mas mababa. So nakita mo today na parang sumabog talaga yung intelligence fund ng Office of the President. That is a problematic sign for me.
Sir, dun sa Intel Fund kasi ng Office of the President, the DBM has explained that it's for the President's campaign to fight criminality and drugs. Yung usual narrative ng administrasyon. So OSG, ano po, bakit kailangan ng OSG ng Intel Fund? I mean, what work does the OSG do that needs Intel Fund?
Well, my personal position is the OSG doesn't need any intelligence funds. So that takes care of everything.
Sir, sa mga nanonood, can you briefly describe what the OSG does? Kasi baka feeling nila, kasi ang pagkakakilala nila siguro ngayon sa OSG, the one who goes to oral arguments in the Supreme Court.
That's right.
Pero you have like a day job and thousands of cases that you resolve.
Yes, oo. Meron ngang isang nakakita ng ID ko, akala niya military ako dahil nakita niya yung general, hindi yung solicitor, doon sa Solicitor General. Well, the Solicitor General is the Chief Counsel of the Republic. Ikaw yung pangunahing abogado ng pamahalaan. Malaki siyang opisina. Nung panahon ko, 250 na lawyers and about 500 na staff. No? Ito yung pinakamalaking legal office sa ating republika, even larger than the private law offices. Ang trabaho niya is to represent agencies and instrumentalities of the government. So ikaw yung tinatanong, ikaw yung nagre-representa. The highlight work of the Solicitor General is yung oral arguments. No? Dahil
pag pina-appeal na sa Supreme Court yung mga kaso.
So generally, marami kaming hina-handle at the appellate level. even criminal cases. Kaya pag nagkaroon ng oral arguments, ang kadalasan na nagre-representa doon sa mga sangay ng pamahalaan ay yung Solicitor General.
Sir, sabi niyo, top 1 in the bar, nagtatrabaho sa SC, naging batang Solicitor General. Why the sudden change of route? Bakit po kayo magsisenador?
I'd consider myself an accidental politician. I never saw myself as a politician. I remember in 2004 working with and for Senator Salonga. He wanted me to run for the 1st District of Tondo, Manila. I said, sir, I'm not a politician. That's not my thing. I saw myself as an academic, kaya naman nasa UP ako. But I think in the last 2.5 years, there were fundamental challenges to the discipline. So lumabas na ako dun sa political. I felt after OSG, parang retired na or semi-retired. You can go back to the UP College of Law and talk to them about constitution law with the experience that I got from the Office of the Solicitor General. Pero parang paulit-ulit na nilalabas ako doon sa universidad. And naging political na yung mga challenges. And so sa tingin ko, eto na yung panahon and partly compelled by my frustrations with the administration. Kaya sabi ko parang, sige, labas na lang muna tayo sa universidad because I think there's a more immediate fight. If you're teaching, you're investing in the future. Diba?
But the problem is the present?
The problem is the present. Parang it's too late. Diba? Kung magtago ka doon sa classroom, doon sa universidad, when the challenges outside the university need to be confronted now.
Sir, let's go to the issues that are very close to your heart. Sa Twitter nga, lagi mong sinasabi, dapat ang laging tatandaan natin, WPS, thousands of killings, and 6.4 billion sa buwi. Yan paulit-ulit mo. Sir, sa WPS muna. You also like to tell the story of how you met the President in 2016 to brief him. Can you tell us anong nangyari? What was your mood? Were you optimistic? Galing kayo sa panalo, you're meeting the next President of the Philippines. Were you optimistic? Paano po nangyari yung meeting?
Well, I'm always hopeful. Kasi hope is always looking forward, diba? But I knew that the President's policies with respect to the West Philippine Sea were very different, at the very least, very different from the previous administration's policies. And parang biglaan yun eh. I remember I was asked by Justice Hardelesa and Kagiwa to go to the Supreme Court para hintayin yung decision. Nung
so you didn't know it then, yung decision? Sabay-sabay kayo naghintay?
Yes, we were emailed by the Secretariat of the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Ako as the former agent, end of business hours of July 12th of 2016. So we wanted to immediately tell the former president kung ano yung resulta, kaya we banded together because the legal team of the president was yung mga nasa OP, OSG, and then DOJ. Pero yung naging magkakasama, si Justice Ben Kagiwa, Justice Hardelesa, ES Ochoa, and then ako. So, we were very happy dahil that's 100% win talaga.
And then to that meeting with President Duterte.
And then we were texted, sabi niya, parang pwede niyo ba na pumunta sa Malacanang? So, pumunta agad kami sa Malacanang. It was a full cabinet meeting and the President was very nice, very thankful, and then he asked for the briefing. So, we basically explained kung ano yung decision and moving forward, kung ano yung mga pwedeng gawin.
In that meeting, did he tell you that, well, ang thoughts ko, gusto kong to forge warmer ties with China? Did he say things like
what
that?
I remember is the term soft landing.
Okay.
Because the challenge for the day was how to communicate the victory in a way na parang hindi daw masyadong nangaaway.
Okay.
So I remember that day, yung problema was si SFA Yasay na mukhang malungkot pa siya na nanalo tayo. Of course, we were very victorious. I think I remember what I said was, everybody knows we won. So let the world talk about our victory. Let's celebrate. Pero baka hindi naman kailangan mangante. Because even China knows that it lost already.
So from soft landing in 2016 to 2018,
Turnaround.
we signed the Memorandum of Understanding with China.
Yes.
Ano po yung nakita nyo immediately, problematic agad-agad?
That's a good metaphor. Yeah. Soft landing, di ba? To victory. Ang ginawa nila, umikot dun sa runway, bumalik paatras. Dun sa policy ni Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. Di ba? Because the signing of the MOU, I think, represents the full turnaround. That's a government-to-government agreement. It's an agreement to agree, but an agreement nonetheless. And my worry is that international scholars or even judges in the future will consider that as the full waiver of the decision in Philippines versus China. If you look
How do you say po na full waiver? Parang
that's my real worry. That's why I've been sounding the alarm bells and disagreed with some people. Dahil if you look at the language of the agreement, that's a language of cooperation. That's basically the language of China during the Arroyo administration. Na there's a possibility to set aside the dispute.
yung without prejudice to
Yes.
the legal position.
You can set aside the dispute and focus on the purely economic side. That may have been possible during the Arroyo administration, but after our win in Philippines versus China, you can no longer say without prejudice to the legal positions of the government, of both governments, because the legal positions of both governments have already been clarified by that decision. So, hindi ka na pwedeng umatras dun sa position na contested maritime space yan. No, it's no longer contested maritime space. And if you decide to enter into a government-to-government transaction with China, you're impliedly recognizing the validity of their claims, which we debunked when we won the case.
So yun yung pinaka-problematic sa inyo,
Yes.
sir, yung without prejudice to the legal stand.
The MOU is the key agreement that opens everything up to all the other unconstitutional and illegal things what happened. Binuksan mo na yung pintuan eh.
Sir, had you been a senator like for this Congress and you got wind that may isa-sign na MOU, how would you have tried to address it on the floor? Paano nyo po sana napigilan or something?
Well, the easiest would have been a privileged speech to inform the people, to create noise. We know that the Senate does legislative work, but a big part of the work of the Senate is oversight. And that means overseeing how government functions, overseeing constitutional compliance, and the easiest way would have been to create a noise and say, okay, pag pinirmahan nila to, kailangan alam ng mga mamamayan. Because I think around 84% of Filipinos are disappointed or frustrated with the government's policy with respect to the West Philippine Sea, even as the president has remained very popular. So, nahihiwalay ng mga Pilipino yung popularity ng presidente doon sa polisiya niya doon sa West Philippine Sea. And that's a good platform for speaking very loudly about the issue.
Sir, beyond making noise, kasi the opposition naman, hindi naman yan nagkulang sa pagsasound ng alarm sa lahat ng mga polisiya. Beyond making noise po, ano yung concrete legislative work that you would have done para napigilan sana yung pag-sign ng MOU that you say is a full waiver of our...
Well, I don't know about a legislative work. You can file bills, but, a senator is part of a group of 24 senators, is part of a group of a larger body, which is the Congress. There are practical limitations to your ability to create law dahil isa ka lang sa 24 sa isang kongreso. And any bill would have to be signed by the president. Kung hindi agree talaga yung presidente sa polisiya mo doon sa West Philippine Sea, he'll never sign a law. So I think we need to be honest about it na walang polisiya na manggagaling sa Kongreso na taliwas sa polisiya ng presidente na pipirmahan ng presidente.
Sir, yung MOU ba, treaty na ba yun? Kasi yun yung laging pinag-uusapan na parang if it's a treaty, it needs the concurrence of the Senate. So at this level, kailangan na ba siyang pag-usapan o pagbotohan ng Senado?
I don't think so. So at the domestic level, I don't think it rises to the level of a treaty na kailangang pirmahan pa ng Senado. But nonetheless, it's a binding document because it was signed by representatives of both countries. Yung mas malaking takot ko really is at the international level, countries will say, with this MOU, the Philippines has formally pivoted towards China and away from protecting its own waters. It's already dropped the case. I think that's the larger worry.
Sir, when does fear start to be real dito sa MOU? Kasi sabi nga, MOU pa lang eh. So sa MOA ba, as in nagiging mas concrete na yung mga bagay-bagay? Or
I
meron
think
pang
the fear should already be real. Dahil, if you look at it as a form of a metaphor, eto na yung susi na nagbukas ng pinto. Diba? And the other monsters will come in.
Okay, sir. Dun sa MOU nakalagay, they have 12 months to talk. So if you win a Senate seat, you would be in the Senate habang pag-uusapan to towards the next level. What could you promise the voters kung ano yung gagawin mo?
What I'll do is scrutinize at every possible level constitutional compliance. I think nakalagay dun sa Constitution, the exploration, development, utilization of our natural resources shall be under the full control and supervision of the state. And that refers not only to the President, but to Congress. So it's not just the right, it's the obligation of Congress to participate in matters dealing with the West Philippine Sea in particular. The Senate should have a very active role in understanding, clarifying all the agreements that will follow from that MOU.
Sir, from sovereign rights, sovereign rights pa rin naman to, pero the rights of the fishermen, the interest of the fishermen, recently we saw yung the GMA News team being shooed away by the Chinese Coast Guard. Bilang senador po, meron po bang legislation that would protect them further than what is already being given to them?
Well, the biggest protection, I suppose, is to have them there in the Senate. Ask them to talk about their narrative, ask the military officials, the Coast Guard, to ask them to speak. Again, we shouldn't focus on the role of the Senate as just passing laws, especially on matters where there's a conflict of policy between the Senate or one particular senator. Yes,
in the end, presidente pa rin naman ang pipirma.
Yes, so hindi natin pwedeng ilimita dun sa batas lamang.
Sir, doon naman tayo sa susunod na issue, EJK, extrajudicial killings, police abuses. Over the last 2 years, marami naman nang naging Senate inquiries into police abuses. Kulang pa. What I was gonna ask is, ano po ba talaga yung value nitong mga Senate inquiries? Because people might already get jaded na lagi na lang silang may napapanood. But it doesn't really translate to convictions. Tulad nung smuggling, Captain Faeldon has not faced any charges pero gisang-gisa sa Senado. So, ano po ba yung value ng Senate inquiry?
The Senate is not a prosecuting agency. The Senate, can expose, and we need to continue the task. Dahil even at the possible worry na it might deaden the senses of the people, because the moment you stop talking, the moment you stop exposing these things, the moment wala na dun sa headline, napunta na dun sa ilalim ng middle pages of the newspapers, tapos na yung laban. You've already given up. It's a very difficult struggle, frustrating and disappointing, but it has to be done. It has to be placed in the agenda of the Senate, all the time. That's a difficult work ahead.
So sorry to go back to legislation again. Meron po ba kayong idea of a bill that you would want to push forward para lang mabantayan yung mga police or like incentivize para hindi na sila, alam mo yun, yung mga ganun po para to avoid police abuses, sir?
Well, the problem is yung police abuses have something to do with the executive policy over the drug war. I think immediate would be to think about compensation for the victims kasi parang patagilid siyang approach to the drug war. There are thousands of families that have been victimized by the drug war. Anong gagawin natin sa kanila? A compensation bill would do something, would be a move forward. It's also a way to expose the abuses coming from the state itself.
Sir, hindi niyo ba namimiss ang lawyering job pagdating dito sa EJK that you could do much more kung nilalaban niyo siya sa courtroom than going to the Senate? I
think you need to look at the role of lawyers either piecemeal or policy level. The task to do the piecemeal justice, I think, ought to be done by lawyers, organizations. But there also has to be people who do the policy work, and they have to jive together. I have decided to do the policy work because I think you need to confront the responsibility and accountability of this administration, not just at the level of each and every victim, but at the level of responsibility of the state.
Sir, other issues naman po. Categorically, sir, are you for same-sex marriage or same-sex union?
Well, the basic position is you need to recognize equal citizenship. And if the state provides a privilege, which is heterosexual marriage, there's no reason to deny that to the LGBT community.
Sir, so do you support same-sex marriage?
Because
or?
my principle is that, my answer is yes.
Yes.
Because I think we need to talk about principles before the policy. We need to explain the policy.
Sir, but when you were Solicitor General, of course, you had the task of responding to the petition filed against the civil registrar. Tama
Yes.
po ba, civil registrar na umakyat sa Supreme Court? Of course, your position then was for the state. So, ino-oppose niyo yung
Not
petition.
really. I opposed the petition because I thought it was procedurally defective. Also, from a strategic standpoint, I think it should be confronted at the legislative level, not at the Supreme Court level. There's also, a tactical perspective to it. If you think, that you're not going to get that decision from the Supreme Court, then why file before the Supreme Court? Kailangan tsempohan yung mga laban eh. So you need to build communities, you need to build the people who are willing to fight that fight. And with a large enough community, focus on the venue. Should it be done at the level of the local government? Should it be done at the level of Congress? Should it be done at the level of the Supreme Court?
So for you, Congress po dapat to?
Nandun yung labanan. I think if you look at the numbers, parang 50-50 pa yata yung sense ng public when it comes to civil unions and same-sex marriage. And so there's an element na communications, kailangan ipaalam muna sa mga tao na kailangan itrato natin lahat ng ating kababayan na pantay-pantay. And yung prinsipyo na yon will extend to our position with respect to same-sex marriage, civil unions.
Sir, going back to the petition, procedural defects and strategies aside, do you agree to the position of the petition na yung provision sa family code that limits a marriage between a man and a woman only violates the Equal Protection Clause?
It should be amended. It's incompatible
The family
with
code po should be amended?
Yes. That's why ang position ko, it should be legislative. If you look at the litigation history ng same-sex marriage in the United States, when they first went judicial, the negative reaction was polarization of the states. Ginamit for political reasons ng conservative community, lalong nahati yung mga tao. You don't want to do that. You want an inclusive legislation. First, to try to convince the conservatives and everybody else na hindi naman sinisira yung kasal ng lalaki at babae kapag ni-recognize mo yung kasal ng babae at babae. So, there's a timing element to it. It's a legal question also, but there's a broader political game here, which is to convince everybody that equality is a principle na kailangan tayaan ng lahat.
Okay, sir, so timing in consideration, and you win a seat at the Senate, boboto po ba kayo for the same-sex union bill? Kung umakyat na?
Yes, of course. Dahil yun yung prinsipyo ko.
Kahit next year na po?
Yes, of course. Dahil yun yung prinsipyo ko. But hindi dun sa boto lang tayo dapat pumunta. Yung the larger political game is to go to the people, to go to the communities, to try to partner with conservative groups and say, hindi naman po nasisira yung konsepto nyo ng kasal kapag naisama itong konsepto ng kasal na ito. Because it can't be that narrow na boto ka for same-sex marriage ka. Kaaway mo yung mga conservatives. I don't think politics is like that. In classrooms, we can talk about our principles dahil you're talking to students, diba? Or some people are talking down to students. But in politics, it's a more complex game. And that game is about convincing people.
Sir, correct me if I'm wrong, yung same-sex marriage and same-sex union, it has the same civil rights that will be granted to same-sex couples. Tama po ba? Sa name lang nagkakaiba?
Depende sa content. Those are markers for what you want. Same-sex union, pwedeng lower standards than same-sex marriage, but you need to look at the details. But again, it really boils down to the basic question, are you willing to grant the LGBT community the right to equal citizenship? And the answer ought to be yes.
Sir, pupunta naman ako sa JBC interview nyo.
Okay.
You said there that parang tinanong kayo ni Justice Helen noon dun sa essay niyo dun sa, ano yun, sir, delegalization?
Oh, the essay is about undoing marriage.
Undoing marriage. Sir, could you expound?
It's an academic paper. And the academic paper was meant or is meant to tell people na yung marriage is an institution na pwedeng hati-hatiin into different
deconstructing, kumbaga.
to deconstruct, the institution. Dahil ang tingin ng tao, isa lang yan. But if you look at, for example, the family code, most of the provisions of the family code are with respect to property relations. Dahil hindi naman pwedeng sabihin ng West na mahalin mo yung asawa mo. Diba? So, the really personal and emotional part of the relationship actually cannot be controlled by the state. So yung tanong ko doon, parang, you don't really, or I think the statement ko doon, we don't need the state to validate what we feel. Diba? Although, of course, there's a symbolic function to marriage na pag kasal na kayo, iba na yung status, parang iba na rin yung nararamdaman nung tao. But my basic point there is that we can separate all these pieces of institutions under marriage para ma-focus natin yung political work down the line.
Sir, given that, wala ba kayong concerns that you might be alienating the more conservative voters?
It's a
How
concern,
do you,
of course. It's a concern because if you're running for the Senate, you're trying to get a broad enough segment of the population to agree with you. But I think ang problem is how to tell them that we need to progress to this particular direction, and this progress is an inclusive progress.
Sir, divorce po. Pabor po ba kayo? Sinusuportahan niyo po ba ang divorce?
I think it's a wrong framing of the question. Para naman gusto mo ba na maghiwalay yung mga tao? Because that's how it's framed.
Is there a version of a divorce bill that you would see yourself voting for?
Again, you go back to the principle. Kung sira na yung kasal, kung nire-rape yung asawa, kung binubugbog yung asawa, I mean, the core of the marriage is already gone. Kung gano'n na yung sitwasyon, papayag ka ba na umalis na sila doon sa kasal, na tanggalin na yung legal bind between the parties? And if you frame it that way, I'd say it's reasonable to say, dapat yata tanggalin na. You allow people to reset their lives, to give them a second chance. Bakit mo itatali sa isang legal na institusyon yung dalawang taong hindi na magkaibigan, nag-aaway pa, na kawawa na yung mga anak nila dahil nakikita sila nag-aaway-aaway lagi-lagi. It's a difficult decision to make, the decision to leave a marriage, but you need to keep that option open to the persons involved, which is the wife and the husband.
So, sir, may qualification kung may abuses and...
I think Filipinos today are ready for a fault-based divorce.
Sir, what is a fault-based divorce? Basta yun nga, pag
if you look again at the divorce legislation in the United States, nagumpisa sila dun sa fault-based. Ngayon, I think most of the states are no fault-based. Meaning, pagising mo, ayoko na dito, ayoko na, divorce na tayo. I think that's a legislation Filipinos are not ready not willing to do it. But kung laging may black eye yung asawa, yung mga anak laging kinakawawa, kung may rason talaga para maghiwalay at naghiwalay na, hindi na magkasundo talaga, sira na yung relasyon. What's the point of maintaining that legal fiction na kasal pa kayo and preventing people from moving forward? I think we need to package our progressive agenda in a way that's reasonable. And I think that's the reasonable framing of the answer. But if people are asked, are you or for divorce? Parang hinati mo agad dun sa, gusto ko, pwede kaming maghiwalay. Diba? Pag ayoko na sa'yo, iiwan na kita. Then, mahihirapan ka talaga na kumuha ng mga boto na kailangan.
It should be more nuanced, kumbaga.
Yes, because life is very complicated and situations are always quite sophisticated. Diba? Or complicated lagi yung relasyon ng mga tao.
Sir, moving on to another topic. Pinag-usapan natin kanina yung stance niyo po dati sa Torre de Manila issue. Parang ang issue po kasi nung dati ay, first you defended the cultural agencies, the NHCP and all, and then nung oral arguments against the construction na po kayo. What was it, sir? Parang late realization or appreciation ng...
Here's what happened with Torre de Manila. My position was
yung una muna,
the building punta muna sa dulo. Position was the building permit was void, the zoning permit was void, and maraming problema. And then if you look at the law, parang we really need to protect, our cultural integrity. When the case was first filed by the Knights of Rizal, inassign ko dun sa isang division ang position nila, and nag-agree ako, parang this is totally defective.
The petition was defective.
Na petition, and therefore, pa-dismiss na lang natin, hindi papansin na ng Korte Suprema. But the Supreme Court decided to correct the petition, and they even scheduled oral arguments on the matter. And that means na gusto talagang tutukan ng Korte Suprema yung kaso to. Sabi ko, tignan ko yung kaso kasi ako yung mag-argue dun sa case. And then I asked my client agencies, NCCA, NHCP, and yung National Museum. Yung dalawa, putol. Yung isa, wag putulin. And so I thought about it and said, okay, let me think about it. And nung pinag-isipan ko siya, I said, it's really very important for us to protect that sideline. It's ground zero for our history. It's a public space that's sacred for Filipinos. Every time you go to that area, you want to take a photo. And that's the commons, the public commons. And we need to protect the public commons. I looked at the statute, very broad yung protection for heritage and those types of sites. So sabi ko, we can make an argument, and the argument can be really strong for the protection of the Rizal Monument. And then, isama mo doon na void yung building permit and zoning permit on their faces. So I told my clients, okay, I am for putol. We need to protect that monument. Yung dalawa, kumampi sa akin, yung NHCP hindi sila kumampi sa akin. Say, okay, fine. Then, let the court decide.
Sir, that might be a cause of concern. Kasi kunyari sa Senado, for example, yung train law, maraming nag-vote yes nung una. Tapos ngayong nararamdaman na yung effects, medyo kumakabig na sila. Baka isipin nila, o baka mag-change vote din si Attorney Hilbay, or baka iba yung iba, or baka hindi masyadong bigyan ng pansin ng isang bill at the onset. Tapos
well, I think those are quite disconnected. My position on Torre de Manila, I think would be a very progressive position on the question of heritage. My position on the train law is also progressive, which is it's a compromise against the poor, and I've been consistent about that. My position in the West Philippine Sea has been very consistent. We cannot enter into joint development with China. That's reflected in the position on the MOU.
So you promise to be consistent with all the issues that you're going to support?
I'm not promising to be consistent. What I'm saying is, if you look at everything I've done, I've been very consistent on the principles that that are very important to me.
Sir, allow me to get a little political. Okay. Nung isang gabi po, meron po ata kayong nasabi na radio interview about the communications team of former President.
I didn't refer to the communications team.
May communication problem noong administrasyong Aquino. And nag-react po yung mga dating spokesperson like sila. Abby Valten, Edwin Lacerda. Would you care to explain kung ano po ba yung naging...
I didn't even refer to the communications team. Like I said, I referred to a communications issue for the past administration. which included me. So let me just talk about myself. When I was Solicitor General, there was only one press con that I did, and that was when I was new. After that, I stopped doing any press con. Why? Because of the belief that the numbers will speak for themselves. If we do good things, if we do what's good for the people, then the people will appreciate it. Without us telling people, oh, ang ganda ng ginawa namin, oh, tingnan, hindi mo kailangan idot-dot yung mga nagawa mo. And like I said, when I was asked that question, I frame it in a very positive and generous way. Ayoko din naman magyabang na, oy, nung panahon namin, nung nakarang administrasyon, ganyan. But I think we also have to accept the reality na communication is a very complicated issue. Doon yung meron ding kakulangan. Apart from, all the other faults that we had when we were in power.
So baka sir, marami ring nagtatanong bakit po hindi LP si Attorney Hilbay? Parang siguro yun yung in-expect nila when you announced your interest to run for Senate. So sir, why are you not with LP?
Because I think I see myself as a new voice. I really don't see myself as a politician. So it's a good idea to go to a party, and that's Action Democratico. The offer from Action Democratico came months earlier. I think about 8 months ago pa, or 6 months ago pa, when news started circulating that I was thinking of running for the Senate. And Action Democratico is the party of Senator Raul Roco, very progressive politician. I think they're also rebuilding, and so it's a good way, I think, to start afresh, to present yourself as a new candidate.
Sir, let me just briefly discuss yung Coco Levy na naalala ko lang. Narule na ng Sandigan Bayan recently lang na final na Coco Levy, this much belongs to the farmers, pero the distribution is what's causing the delay para maipamahagi sa mga magsasaka. And yung pinapangako ng Duterte administration, hindi pa rin medyo satisfactory sa mga farmers. So, if you win a Senate seat, what could you promise the Coco Levy farmers?
You need to oversee the spending of that. Well, I think originally 71 billion. When I was Solgen, I filed motion for partial entry of judgment, the result of which was nakuha na yung 71 billion. So, of all the cases that are still pending, nahiwalay yung pera na yon, nakuha na talaga, pera na ng gobyerno. That's why there's a law being crafted to develop the policy on how to spend it. I think it has to be done in a very transparent way and in a very participatory manner. Dahil you don't want to inflict a second injustice on the coconut levy farmers. Dahil kinuha sa kanila yan in the form of a tax. Napunta sa mga pribadong korporasyon, hinabol ng pamahalaan sa loob ng 3 dekada. Ngayon nasa atin na, hindi naman pwede na hindi gamitin sa kanilang kapakanan. And the best way to ensure that it's used for their benefits is make them part of the use of the funds.
Sir, baka feel na nilang it's been so long, hindi pa rin nila makuha yung share nila. Do you have, is it reasonable to give a timeline to kung kailan can we come up with a law that will be good for everybody?
I think it's already in the bicameral conference committee level. So the timeline is, tapos na halos sa Kongreso. It depends on the President, whether he's going to sign it. And then yung execution depends on the President as well.
Sir, I'm down to my last question. You teach constitutional law, and sinabi mo nga kanina, kaya mo inisip tumakbo kasi you saw that there were, sir, fundamental challenges to the discipline. What is the biggest threat today? Could you name like one?
Rule of law.
Sir, may specific ba? Like, for example, the charter change or whatever, like?
When I say there are fundamental challenges to the discipline, the value of law, the core beliefs of the law are directly under attack. At a fundamental level, because unang-una binabago nga nila yung ating saligang batas, no? So that's how fundamental the challenge really is. And then you look at it at the level of operation, the challenges to the operation of the Constitution are so apparent, we don't even have to talk about it. The weaponization of the law, nakita naman natin, no? Challenges to the independence of the judiciary, decisions that are very difficult to explain from a constitutional law standpoint, they're all there. And kaya nga, I think we need to go political. I've decided to go political because I think those problems cannot be remedied immediately. You know, if you stick to the, well, operational aspects of the discipline.
So people might say, but Supreme Court is the last bastion of democracy. If we have a Justice Hilbay, baka dun siya makatulong.
I don't think the Supreme Court is the last bastion of democracy. The people are the last bastion of democracy. The people are the first bastion of our democracy. The Supreme Court is one institution that can protect our democracy, but down the line, you know, it's we the people that really matters.
Oh, sir, on a last note, what would you promise to the people who want to vote for you? What can you do for them para to watch and not watch our rule of law erode further?
I don't want to couch it in terms of promises. In fact, I'd like to couch it in terms of, I hope the people get to know who I am, where I come from, what I've done, you know, and I'm quite confident that if people get to know my background, the struggles that I've had, my vision for a society reflected in the work that I have done, I think they'll see someone who is acceptable for 1 out of 12. For 1 out of 12. I'm not saying I'm the best out of all the candidates that are running for the Senate, but I think people are looking for new voices, and those new voices are voices that come from, you know, the ground. I come from Tondo, I come from very humble beginnings, and yet I was able to, and I've been able to see the world of poverty, the world of the academe, the world of power. And I think that's a unique perspective that I bring to the table in the elections for the Senate.
All right, thank you so much. That has been Attorney Florin Hilbay, a candidate under the opposition coalition running under Aksyon Demokratiko. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Rappler Talk.
Thank you.